Hello and welcome to part 6 of our Serendipity Booksellers C++ project. And in this part we will introduce functions to our program. Right now we have several files, but each of them kind of acts on its own. In this part we will put it all together and create a multi-file project where all the files act as one application. So we have, like I said, several files. We have a cashier, inventory menu, and so forth. And we will be renaming these main methods in these files. I had to, if you remember, I had to keep renaming the main methods in these files in order to be able to run them and test them, because they were not connected. In this exercise, or in this part, we will have only one main method in our main menu file, and from there all the other files will be kind of hooked together using headers and functions. Now we have an option to run it as a multi-file program or a single file program. I decided to do a multi-file program. I think that's much more standard than having a huge number of lines of codes in just one file. We will do the headers for each of the CPP files. So we will have a cashier, inventory menu, bookinfo, and reports. Our main menu file won't have a header because that's going to be the file with the main method. It's going to be the entry point of our program. So yeah, like I said, we will have our mainmenu.cpp file. So we will modify the switch statement in this function so that instead of displaying the number entered by the user, like right now, if the user presses 1, we simply display you pressed 1. But we will actually call the function that represents the selection. So if the user presses 1, it's going to call inventory menu. If the user selects 2, the function reports is selected, and so forth. In our inventory database function, we will add some functionality to it, so for kind of prepare it for later operations. For example, we will have a function void lookUpBook, and this function should display the message you selected lookUpBook. Eventually, obviously, it's going to actually perform some search. The same with addBook, editBook, or deleteBook. All these will be actually adding books or editing books or deleting books. But for now, we will simply just kind of put it all together and display a message which option was selected. And in inventory menu, again, just like in the main menu, we will adjust the switch statement to actually call the functions. In our report, just like we did before, like it's going to be in the other functions, we will have our functions like repListing, like report wholesale, report retail, and we will display a message when these selections are being made. And we will also modify the switch statement again, that we will call these functions when the user selects 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Okay, so let's start with the main menu. So this is going to have our main method, so I will just rename it to main. And we will, in our header or above our using namespace, we will include some headers. We don't have them yet, but we will create them based on the functions as the better requirements. So we will include, it's going to be called bookinfo.h. That's going to be the header for the bookinfo function. we will include cashier.h. We will include invmenu.h, and so we have book info, cashier, invmenu. Reports will be the next. Include reports.h, and I think that's all, right? Book info, cashier, inventory menu, and reports. All right. Right now we don't have these, so after we create them, there will be the errors will go away. So that's really all for our main menu. None of the other changes are needed. So let's go and do well, let's get the book info. So let me do the book info. Now the book info file, before we do the header, it will need to include some of the other ones as well. Well, it will need to include its own header, obviously. So include book info.h, and we already have the IO stream. So that's all for the headers, but we need to obviously create the header. So I'm going to right-click source and add new item, and I'm going to enter a header file, and I'm gonna call it book info.h, and I'll add that. So our book info, see, the error went away, but obviously we don't have anything in our book info header file. So let's change that. And the only thing we need to do is to it has a void book info method or function. That's it. However, the good practice is to make sure that these header files don't get called or initialized multiple times, because that causes errors. So we will create our if not defined the book info.h, or not dot but underscore, because this is the this is to make sure that if it's not defined, then we will define it, otherwise we won't. So if this is true, if the book info header was not defined, then define book info underscore h, and we will wrap it into the end if. And that is all for our book info header. There's nothing else we need to do. If not defined, book info header, then we will define it. Okay, so let's do the next one. Let's say cashier. By the way, book info, I'm sorry, I forgot one more thing. I still have the main method. I have to obviously actually have the function called void book info. That's our function now instead of main. Main is going to be only in the main menu. So that's our book info. Let's do the cashier. That too, we will rename the main method to void cashier, and we will include the header. I'll include it on top of it. In fact, include cashier.h. We don't have that yet, so I'm gonna create it next. But before I do, in the book info, I want these headers to be called before any libraries. It's not necessary, but I prefer it that way. All right, so that's all for our cashier. So now let's create the cashier header. Again, right click, add new item. I'm gonna create a header file, and I'm gonna create something that's called cashier.h. Alright, so there it is, cashier.h, and just like we did with bookinfo, I'm gonna copy paste the whole thing, and I'm gonna just do the changes. So if not define, and this one is cashier h underscore h, sorry, then define cashier h, and as a the function is called cashier, so we will, and it's void, so we will add it to our header as a prototype. So that's cashier. All right, the next one, inventory menu. This one we will rename the method called inventory menu, and we will include the invmenu.h, and I'm gonna right click, add new item, and we will the invmenu.h. Okay, so when it's added, what is it? Here it is. So once again, I'm gonna copy paste that and just invmenu underscore h, invmenu underscore h, and the method is void invmenu. Now, if you remember correctly, there were other functions that are going to be included in the inventory menu, like lookUpBook, addBook, editBook, and deleteBook. So we have to add them to our, as a prototype, we have to add them to our header. So we will do our void lookUpBook, void addBook, and void editBook, and finally void deleteBook. So these are the methods for our inventory menu that will be implemented. So when we go to our inventory menu now, in our switch statement, instead of saying you selected something like that, we can simply go and call that function, lookUpMenu. So instead of cout this, we will do lookUpBook. That's our first method that's going to be implemented, and it's void lookUpBook, right? And the second one, instead of cout, will be addBook. Third one will be deleteBook. I'm sorry, third one I think is editBook, sorry. Third one is editBook. Fourth one is deleteBook. And 5, we simply say selected item number 5, which is supposed to return to main menu, but that is not part of this particular exercise at this moment. Okay, so with that being said, we have the header files. So now on the bottom, we can create our actual functions, because right now we don't have them. We have a header, but we don't have the actual functions that the headers refer to. So we will actually we will not return 0. In fact, I think I forgot to delete return 0 from these functions. I had it there because we had the main menu there before, but that's not the case anymore. So I'm gonna see it's even underscored. So anyway, in our inventory menu CPP file, let's create the functions. So we will do our void lookUpBook, and in it we will simply do cout, and on a new line like that, you selected lookUpBook. All right, and I'm just gonna copy paste it and make some changes. Not cut it, just copy paste. The next one will be addBook. addBook. You selected addBook. The next one will be editBook. editBook. You selected editBook. And finally, deleteBook. And you selected deleteBook. All right, so that's all the functionality for inventory menu. And the next one, we can do we have the main menu already done, so reports would be next. And the reports, let's do void reports. But actually, do I have void here? I have integer inventory menu. It's supposed to be, of course, void. I just changed the name, but I didn't change the cashier. I did. Okay. And the bookinfo, let me just check that. I did bookinfo too. So I forgot just the inventory menu. It's supposed to be void, of course. The reports is void as well. So and reports will be similar to inventory menu. There will be some functions that we will add, but before we do that, let's do our add new item, and we will do a header file called reports.h. And in the reports.h, I'm going to borrow the if not defined part, but it's going to say obviously reports_h. Then we will define it, reports_h. The reports will be the main void method, but then there will be other ones. If you remember from the description, we will be reports_listing, void reports wholesale, void report retail like that, and void report quantity like that, and void report cost, and finally void report h. So this is per requirements. I'm not making it up. If that was from the PowerPoint, as required by the customer that wants this software to be developed. In this case, it's an exercise, obviously. So let's go to our reports and make the changes. So we have the include. We have to include the header because it holds all the prototypes for the functions. So we will do include reports.h. That's why we don't have to have prototypes over here before our method, because we are kind of including them into the header. Otherwise, we would have the prototypes typed right here. So let's do the. We don't need the return since this is now void, and we can do the void repListing, and it will simply say cout, and once again it will say you selected inventory listing. All right, so I'm just gonna again borrow that and do the wholesale. So it's gonna be rep wholesale, and you selected inventory wholesale value. All right, and the next one will be retail, so it's gonna be report retail, and you selected inventory retail value. Then there is the quantity, so it's gonna be report for quantity, and you selected listing, or you selected inventory listing by quantity. And then there's the cost report, so you selected inventory listing by cost. And that's all. Actually, there's one more, sorry, that's age. So you selected inventory listing by age, which will be a report on what inventory has been stored the longest and which one is the newest, which ones are the newest items. So that's our reports. I think we have all of them. So we have book sale, cashier, inventory menu, main menu. All right, so let me see if I forgot anything in the oops. Bookinfo and no, I think, well, let me just run it and see if we get any errors. So it's building it, and we did get some errors. Okay, I misspelled something, so it's include cashier. And now you can see we don't have any errors anymore because these files now exist because we created them. All right, so we have a cashier module. So let's press 1, and again it just runs the main menu, because even though we have the functions, they're not being called yet from our main menu. So this is simply just doing what we did in the previous video. So I'll just exit that. So in order for us to actually hook it up, instead of we need to change our switch statement as well. In fact, let me see. Oh, of course, now in my reports I have to change that as well. I'm a little forgetful today, I guess. Okay, so well, I have to actually call those functions that I just created. So instead of selecting item 1, it will be displayed like that, or it will simply call the function report listing. So we will do the repListing. Over here we will call the wholesale. The third one we'll call rep retail, and this one will be quantity, then the cost, and this one will be the age. And the 7th one is simply exit back to the main menu. We don't do that just yet. So that's that. Inventory menu, I think I already did. Yeah, the cashier. Oh, the cashier doesn't have any switch statement, so it's just the main menu now. We will call, if you press 1, we will call the cashier module. So we will call the cashier function, right? Because we import all the headers right there. And you can see now cashier is highlighted, or is darker than the rest, because now it's being used. These simply means that they are, see how they are kind of like almost transparent. That's because they are not being used yet within the program. They're being imported, but nothing is being done with them. So our next one will be inventory menu, and the next one will be reports. And fourth one is to exit, I believe, or yeah. So and we don't have the book info. I don't think I need to even import it, but I'll just leave it there for now, because I think maybe in the future exercises we will need to do the book info as well. Book info is actually just part of the other modules themselves. So let me run it and see how it goes now. It should be now kind of hooked up. So when I press 1, I should go to cashier module, and I did. So you can see enter Serendipity Booksellers cashier module. Oh, it's asking me for the date. You know what? I need to do the. This is not working well yet. It's just calling the cashier module. You can see that it's actually skipped the date because I pressed enter. So again, I need to do the CIN ignore, but that's for some other time. I just want to make sure that right now they are being called correctly, all those functions. So if I run it again and I press 2 for inventory database module, yeah, I have that. So if I press now 3, it says you selected, right here it says you selected editBook, and it repeats. If I go to 5, it simply says you selected item number 5, because it's supposed to return to the main menu. It doesn't yet. Obviously, actually, I'm sorry, it goes to the main menu, not that it doesn't yet. It goes to the main menu, but the other 4, like the lookUpBook and all that, are not functional yet. It simply displays what we selected: lookUpBook, addBook, editBook, and so forth. So now I try the report module. I press 3, and here I am in the report module. So if I press 4, it says, hey, you entered your choice is 4, and now it goes. If I press 7, it goes back to the main menu, and press 4 and I exit. So but the reports shouldn't actually expression result unused, rep quantity. That's because I forgot parentheses. All these. So let me try it one more time with the report menu, because if I press 4, it should say listing by quantity. Yes, instead of you selected number 4. Okay, so now it works. So you selected inventory listing by quantity. If I press 2, it says you selected inventory wholesale value. If I press 7, it returns to the main menu. And cashier module, again, is not fully functional yet because it skips the enter date. But if I enter the quantity of the book and the ISBN and the title and the price, at the end it actually still works. It displays the receipt and all. If I press N, it goes back to the main menu. Okay, so that should be all. But you know what, let's fix that in the cashier module so it actually doesn't skip the date and all that. So I'm going to just simply add the CIN ignore commands after okay, when this one displays the cashier module, I will ignore the enter being pressed when calling this module. So I have my date, I have my quantity that already ignores, so that should actually do the trick. Let me see. So if I press cashier module now, it asks for the date. It doesn't skip it, even though I pressed enter. So now I press 5/18/2016, quantity of the book, ISBN 123, title, my title, and price will be $1,000, and here's the receipt. And if I go again and press enter, no, I have to press it twice now. Well, I'll fix it some other time. But it basically works. All the headers and all the functions are connected and being called correctly. So that's what mattered for this exercise the most. So some title and price will be $1. So there you go. No, return to main menu and exit. All right. So yeah, this is all. This should do the trick for this requirements. We have a multi-file application now with each file's kind of being connected to the other one via the headers, and we now use functions to kind of modularize the whole application. So that's part 6, and I will see you at part 7. Take care.